My wife and I are newlyweds who have been married for a year. We were both working and enjoying a fulfilling life. The reason we got married was that we had been dating for about 2 years, and my wife said it was time to get married. I thought we were a happy couple, by our own admission, until I learned the unbelievable truth my wife had hidden. But that image was suddenly shattered. One day after work, I received a call from my wife.
Joe, something terrible has happened. If you finished work, come home right away.
I felt something serious was going on with my wife's panicked tone. What happened? What's going on? I asked her. But my wife never answered any of my questions.
It's something I can't talk about on the phone. I'll tell you all about it when I see you. So just come home. And don't take a detour or anything,
she said in a voice that sounded like a shout. I was so curious that I jumped on the train and went back to my house. I ran from the nearest train station home, but I found my wife hanging around in front of the house. Anyway, now that I knew that my wife was safe, I approached her with great relief. What's wrong? Are you okay?
Joe, you're finally home. I'm already in a lot of trouble. I don't know what to do.
My wife was apparently in a panic, so I tried to calm her down. It's okay. Tell me what happened. Why are you hanging around here? Then, my wife said something outrageous.
My boyfriend and his wife are inside the house.
I couldn't believe my ears. I couldn't understand it at all, and I cornered my wife. Who is this boyfriend? That was the only straightforward way to confirm it. At my question, my wife hesitated for a moment and then said,
My boyfriend cheated on me with a junior colleague from his work.
That's what she told me. I felt like the world went dark in front of me for a moment. It was such an unbelievable fact that my brain couldn't handle it. Wait a minute. Are you serious? It's not a prank, right? I confirmed it again with my wife, hoping with all my heart that it was all a lie. My wife sighed and,
It's the truth. His wife found out and came to our house in a rage, looking like a demon. So I told her I'm also married. I was just playing around with him and we were only dating. So there's no need to worry that much. But his wife didn't understand at all. And that's why I was waiting for you to come back no matter what.
My wife said. I didn't understand it either, just like the wife on the other side of the affair. No, I don't think anyone would be convinced by that reason. I don't understand it either. As I said that, my wife pulled my arm.
Anyways, let's go inside the house. If we make her wait any longer, she might get even more violent,
she said. I think my wife was so consumed with protecting herself. I walked into the house and there was a guy, my wife's boyfriend, and his wife, standing there in the living room, arguing with each other. Cheating is disgusting. Don't keep making lame excuses. The guy's wife said this as she approached my wife's lover aggressively. But it was really impulsive. She said that too, didn't she? The man was trying to convince her somehow. Then my wife cut in.
I'm sorry to keep you waiting. My husband has come back. So, shall we talk now?
As she said that, the other man noticed me and turned pale, while his wife gave me a sharp glare.
As I've said many times before, I'm a married woman, and your husband is just a fling for me. So I have no intention of asking for a divorce or anything like that. Please rest assured.
My wife was trying to appease the other woman by saying that. But isn't it even more ridiculous for a married person to cheat? And did your husband really not notice anything? For some reason, her anger was directed at me. I didn't understand why, but I decided to answer her question anyway. Yes, I just found out at the entrance a little while ago. We've only been married for a year, so I never thought that something like this could happen. When did you find out? I said, throwing the question back at her. I just found out today too. I overheard my husband talking on the phone to that woman, saying things like he wanted to meet her and that he loves her. I realized he was cheating and confronted him, and then came to this house. After hearing that answer, I finally understood the situation. However, the fact that she had cheated was something that was very difficult to accept. Hey, why did you cheat in the first place? We've only been married for a year, and you were the one who wanted to get married, remember? When I asked my wife that question, she responded,
Even I never thought I would do something like this. He and I work at the same workplace. I became his supervisor this term, and as we worked together, those kinds of feelings began to grow. It was like an accident.
She came up with such a nonsensical excuse. The other guy's wife got really angry at these words. What do you mean an accident? You just seduced my husband, didn't you? Otherwise, a sincere and serious person like my husband would never fall for someone like you. She started attacking my wife like that. My wife looked annoyed, but she couldn't respond because of her position. I, on the other hand, wanted to blame the cheater. No matter who started feeling that way, the fact is, you are cheating, and that's the problem. Of course, my wife is at fault, but I think your husband is just as bad, if not worse. That's what I told her. Then, the cheating partner said something outrageous. That's not true. My wife is right. I was seduced by this woman. I had no intention of doing so, but she insisted. So I had no choice but to play along. And now, this has happened, and it's terrible. I was so surprised that I couldn't close my open mouth. My wife also was vehemently opposed to this.
What? How dare you lie like that? Weren't you the one who asked me out for dinner first? And you're the one who said you liked me, right? It's too low to blame everything on me.
That's what she said. It seemed like neither of them were going to back down. Sure, I might have said I liked her, but she made me say it. I was told that if I didn't say that, I wouldn't be evaluated properly at work. I was in the middle of a conversation with a cheater who was trying to make my wife the bad guy.
Don't be silly. I'd give you a solid evaluation, but you're not brainless. If I didn't take good care of you, someone like you would never get ahead in life.
My wife was raging, saying these things. I was at a loss in this situation. I thought this argument was pointless. Looking at the two of them, the guy's wife seemed to have had enough too. Hey, you two. Don't you have something to say to me before you start fighting? Stop grumbling and blaming each other already. She yelled like that and intervened between the two. Still, the cheater didn't learn his lesson. But I really was just being played. Please believe me. You understand everything after the fight we just had, right? This woman is like a devil. I could never like a woman like her. He was making excuses like that, but my wife wasn't about to lose either.
That's my line. It was a mistake to have you as a partner. I'm ashamed of myself for having an affair with this piece of shit. You know what, Joe? I was just fooled by this man. I've been cheated on by this man. He's been sweet-talking me like this for years. But this is what he really is. How could I possibly be in love with this lousy man?
She was desperately trying to make the man the villain. In order to resolve the situation, I said, "Enough with the ridiculous excuses. Regardless of what kind of emotions were involved between the two of you, the fact is that you cheated. You should start by apologizing for that, shouldn't you?" When I said that, the two of them lowered their heads. "Cheating is definitely a terrible thing. I'm sorry."
Looking back now, I realized that I did something stupid too. I'm sorry for cheating on you, Joe.
While they were saying those things, I couldn't help but feel that their apologies were too shallow. However, I couldn't forgive them with just such a light apology. It seemed like the other guy's wife felt the same way. "If you're just going to apologize like this, then why do such a despicable thing in the first place? What are you going to do now that you're going to be a father? Doing something as low as cheating at a time like this, as a human being, it's just too much." As she screamed at the man like that, I reacted to her words. "What? Are you going to be a father? Does that mean she's pregnant?" Fearfully, I asked that, and his wife burst into tears, her voice cracking. "Yes, there is my husband's child in my stomach. Even though my stomach doesn't show much yet, this is really an important time. I can't forgive such a terrible thing happening to me." Hearing that, I felt even more disgusted towards the two who had cheated. Of course, I sympathized with the other man's wife, and I had doubts about my own wife. "Hey, could it be that you knew about his wife's pregnancy and still cheated?" When I asked my wife, she looked even more down.
"I knew because he told me,"
she answered. Once again, I felt dizzy. I never thought my own wife would be such a crazy person. How would she feel if I cheated on her when she was pregnant? If you can't imagine that kind of thing, you wouldn't have done this in the first place. Or is she someone who knows it logically but can't control herself? I never thought I would be so disappointed in my own wife. When I looked at my wife with contempt, she noticed it and desperately made excuses.
"But, as I've said many times before, it wasn't serious, and it had no effect on the baby. I didn't want to take the father away from the baby, and it was really just a game to pass the time." After hearing those words, the other man's wife and I were at a loss for words. "Well, it's because my wife didn't understand the obvious things, you know? There's no effect on the unborn child? Are you kidding me? If the mother is under stress, it can definitely affect the child. How can you not even understand such a simple thing and make such excuses?" I really despised that. "But I thought it wouldn't be a problem if I didn't get caught. I knew that cheating was bad, but I was tired from work and needed a little fun. I think he was feeling the same way. He used me to distract himself from the stress of his wife's pregnancy and the changes in their environment." My wife's excuses never stopped, and I felt my love for her fading away more and more. The other person's wife seemed to be completely exasperated by my wife's endless excuses. "You don't seem to feel any guilt about what you've done. All you do is make excuses. It's unbelievable that someone like you has a family." That's what Mary said. And I thought she was absolutely right. My wife was in tears and bowing her head to the other woman, apologizing. "I'm sorry. I truly regret what I did now." She said that, but it was too late. Even though she apologized, she still couldn't calm her anger. And of course, I couldn't put an end to it. "I said I wanted to hear your apology, but I never said I would forgive you for that. I'm going to have to sue you for alimony for what you did." My wife was pale when Mary said that, but I was going to continue along with her too. I'm not satisfied with leaving things like this.
I need to think carefully about our future. Also, I will be demanding compensation from your husband, so please be prepared for that as well," I said. The cheating partner was as pale as his wife. After that, he and his wife left, and then it was just me and my wife alone. After a long period of silence, my wife said,
"Joe, I'm really sorry for cheating, but I promise I'll never do it again."
She apologized again. But at that moment, my feelings had already been decided. "I'm sorry, but I don't think I can forgive what you did. I don't think we can stay married any longer. I'm confused myself right now, but I know I can forgive you." I told my wife that.
"So are you saying we're getting a divorce?" "But Joe, I've only ever loved you. I have no feelings for the other guy, and if you forgive me, we can go back to how things were."
My wife said that while crying, but it was impossible for me. That's not the point. The fact that you betrayed me even once is the problem. Even if we stay together from now on, I don't think I can trust your words. It's impossible to spend my whole life with you in such a situation. I got married to you because I wanted to spend my whole life with you, but it seems like a big mistake.
"What? I promise I will never do this again. Please forgive me."
My feelings didn't change until the end, even though my wife apologized many times. That night, we slept in separate rooms. I really wanted to kick my wife out of the house, but my emotions won out and I left her in the living room and locked myself in the bedroom. The next morning, when I went out to the living room, my wife looked at me with swollen, tearful eyes, but we didn't speak and I went to work. My wife is still living in the house, but I'm living as if she doesn't exist. I've hired a lawyer because I had no intention of talking to my wife anymore. Tomorrow, we will have a 5-person meeting with a couple on the other side with their lawyer. When I say discuss, I don't intend to talk about things like what happened at my house. I intend to proceed with alimony and specifics about the divorce. When I found out why my wife had contacted me in such a panic, I was in despair. I was truly shocked by the turn of events. Both cheaters seemed to be reflecting on their actions. But this situation cannot be resolved simply by apologizing. The fact that the other man's wife is carrying a life in her womb is also a major reason that makes the situation more serious. After that, as soon as the lawyer was involved, divorce became more realistic and various emotions came flooding in. But my feelings didn't change. My wife refused to get a divorce, so it took some time. But the divorce was finalized. She kept apologizing over and over again, and even said,
"I'll pay the damages, so please let us stay together."
I was honestly dumbfounded by her words. Even if we held on like this, I couldn't imagine that our relationship would improve in the future. However, my wife regretted her actions and cried uncontrollably in front of the lawyer. It was very difficult. On the other hand, the guy my wife cheated with had a determined look on his face. After talking to his wife, it seems that the divorce has been finalized on their side as well. It seems they have already decided on things like child support and custody. I don't really understand, but it seems they decided to separate for the sake of the children. They talked about how they can't raise children while their relationship is still broken. And Mary also demanded compensation from my wife. No matter how much you regret it, an apology alone is not enough. We will definitely demand compensation. Please make sure to pay it within the deadline. My wife was being pressed by Mary, but maybe she didn't really agree with it.
"I was the one being approached by him, so why should I pay?"
My wife answered like that, so I got angry with her. Are you still saying such careless things? Take responsibility for what you did and reflect on it properly. Despite the fact that he has made you look like a villain, he is here with determination. What about you? Always making excuses. My wife seemed to understand that I was really angry, so she quickly retracted her words.
I'm sorry. I will definitely pay the compensation. I also need to take responsibility.
I told my wife that. I was a little relieved that my wife finally admitted her fault. After that, I also demanded compensation from the other party and the discussion was over. By the way, my wife and the guy she cheated with will still have to face each other at work, but it can't be helped if they feel awkward due to paying compensation to each other, right? Both of them were pale just thinking about it, but I couldn't sympathize with them. Afterwards, I asked the other couple to leave first, and my wife and I discussed our future. I'm going to ask you to leave my house right away. Is that okay with you? When I asked her that, my wife looked at me in anguish.
But I'm really sorry, okay? So I just need one last chance.
I firmly refused her. After seeing your attitude since your infidelity was exposed, I really came to dislike you. It's impossible for us to continue as a married couple anymore. I don't feel a shred of love for you. Please accept the breakup with grace. Don't disappoint me anymore.
I never thought it would come to this. Losing you. Joe, how can I go on from here?
My wife said that and started crying again. But once she realized my mind wasn't going to change, she became quiet and agreed to the divorce. After she returned home, I had her fill out the divorce papers, pack her things and leave. So now, I'm alone at home. It's strange, but I don't feel very lonely. Of course, I feel like there's a hole in my heart, but I'm trying to think positively. Right after I found out about the infidelity, I regretted it a lot since we had only been married for a year, but I'm actually glad it came out in the first year. It's better than being deceived and dragged along infidelity. If the infidelity had been discovered after the wife gave birth, it would have been much more complicated. If I keep feeling down like this, it'll just be a waste of my life. They both deserve to lose what they did because of the affair, but I don't want to lose anything. I think divorce was the best choice for me, and I want to heal my wounds as soon as possible. Well, I guess I'll take a break from dating for a while, but that doesn't mean I've given up. I don't think everyone is like that. I can say with confidence that I'll never cheat, and I'm sure that there are plenty of women out there who feel the same way I do. Once I receive the compensation for damages, I'll start saving and begin a new life. For now, I move to a new place for a fresh start, and I'll forget about everything that reminds me of my wife, so I can eventually think that getting divorced was the best thing that ever happened to me. My wife and I were a newlywed couple in our first year of marriage.